All right, everybody, welcome back for another episode of the Popcorn Square. I am Buttons, along here with
Neff.
Kage.
All right, so today we're going to be talking Claws Out. We're going to be discussing some of the new movies that have come out recently, as well as Deadpool and Wolverine, just to kind of give us a little bit of what we're expecting from this movie, as well as some of the other movies that have come out recently. Just a quick recap on those. But we're going to launch right into, we've all here have seen, they are pushing really hard as far as the promotional trailers and promotional items and things coming out for this movie. For all the other Deadpool movies, we have seen a lot of, the funny little clips and things like that to try and garner interest for the movie. And Ryan Reynolds, as Deadpool, he just captures the audience and he pulls you in, and you want to see all of the ridiculousness that he brings to the role. And it's just a good time all the way around with all those movies that I've seen. So this movie, I'm definitely thrilled that they finally pulled it together and that it's coming out. I will be seeing it, opening weekend, and my expectations for me is just, it's going to be a good time. The fact that they always had all the jokes between Deadpool and Wolverine in here, and now they're pulling Wolverine into the story, it's going to be a good time. I just know it. They've over the years have had a great friendship, both on screen and off screen. And, the fact that now they're finally getting to do this movie together, I have really high expectation that the chemistry between the two characters is going to be off the wall, and it's just going to be a good, funny time. And the ridiculousness that goes into these Deadpool movies in terms of the stunts and the humor and, just the weird off-the-wall comments or breaking that fourth wall, adding in, all the little Easter eggs and things from the different movies and as well as the franchise. There's a lot of expectations that we're going to see those things continue in this movie as well, just because they just hit that audience. And of course, this movie is not going to be for kids. It's got that R rating, which a lot of people were concerned with when Disney had taken over. But they're like, nope. It's going to be R-rated. You're going to have all your fun, potty humor, as well as the bad language and, the gory bits. So it's definitely, for me, going to be just a good time. I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Kage and let him give us some of his expectations for the film.
Yeah, so I agree with you 100%. I am hyped for this. It's going to be a good time. I've really enjoyed Deadpool. I might get some flack for this. Deadpool 2 was funny, but it doesn't hold a candle to the first one.
Oh.
I love the first one. I bought the first one. I never bought the second one.
Oh.
The jokes kind of felt, in the second one, like they were trying too hard to recapture lightning in a bottle, so to speak. Like, the jokes were just on point. The scenes, the fourth wall breaks were perfect. I mean, that's what Deadpool is. That's what he's all about as a character. But like, I don't know. It just felt like they were trying to rehash some of the same jokes. They had when he had to regrow his hand.
Baby hand.
So the baby hand, and their way to revisit that is baby legs.
Yeah.
And I was like, you already showed me the baby. You already made those jokes in the first one, so that was an example of a rehash joke. But no, this is history in the making, because he spent how much of the movie of Deadpool 1 absolutely destroying Wolverine, ripping on him, referencing the other X-Men movies, referencing
referencing himself.
Referencing himself of like, like he made references to green spandex, you know what I mean? So
Green Lantern.
Yeah, the
jokes.
Green Lantern. So he's and then
and
he goes,
even,
and I get the talking.
Sabretooth.
Yeah, but he goes, I get the talk in this one, because if you remember in the original Deadpool, I don't know what they were thinking. They made him mute, and he was a science experience. Like, that's not who Wade Wilson is.
Right.
But But no, like all the jokes, we're finally gonna get to see Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds together because they've had this on-screen, off-screen chemistry of like ripping on each other, like on Twitter and stuff like that. So now we're gonna get to see that. So I'm very excited. I'm actually so excited. I think this might be the first Marvel thing I've been excited for since Endgame.
All right.
And I'm not just talking film. I'm talking like the streaming shows.
Yeah, no, that's
like,
a good point because, they have been floundering. Disney, as far as the Marvel universe has been floundering for the last probably 2 years, 3 years, maybe arguably, in terms of creating content that people are really excited and pleased when they get it. I mean, not that they weren't excited, but they weren't
Right.
necessarily pleased. So, that's a good point you make. Neff, any thoughts on your expectations?
Looks like a great film. Very excited about this movie. I think this is the first time you're actually going to be able to see Wolverine act like Wolverine. Because with X-Men, I think you were kind of stuck with that PG-13, PG rating.
That's a great
now
point.
Wolverine can really be Wolverine. So he's going to be saying a lot of things that are going to be like off the top. You know what I mean? A lot of things that are in that rated R area. So I think this is going to be really cool for Hugh Jackman to get back in that. And I think it's also really cool to see Hugh Jackman come back as Wolverine because there was a lot of speculation when Logan came out that was going to be his last
Right.
appearance
Yep.
as Wolverine. So I think Ryan Reynolds' enthusiasm about the story, I think the way that I guess Hugh Jackman probably views Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds' work, I think that kind of got him interested in doing this film. So it got him to come out of his shell and come back and be Wolverine again. And also I think this will also propel him, depending on how this film works out. We don't want to Fast and Furious this thing, but I think if this film does well and these guys do well on screen together, maybe Hugh Jackman may come back and be Wolverine again. It
Yeah.
might be an alternate universe Wolverine,
Deadpool,
but he will
Deadpool
be Wolverine.
Wolverine part 2,
Possible.
or something like it would be a spinoff. One thing I want to note
What
too,
you
an article that I read a while back. So the producers told Hugh Jackman, "You're done. This is going to be your last hurrah or whatever." And so when the pitch came to Hugh Jackman, "Hey, we want you to be Wolverine because there's no other person that can be Wolverine. You are it." And he was like, "Yes,
Right.
on board." He was totally into it. But then the former producers that worked with him were actually disappointed.
That he
they're
had
like,
said yes, or?
well, they didn't want him to come back.
Oh, okay.
They didn't want him to come back. We killed your character, and you're kind of like, what do we talk about all the time about like the Fast and the Furious treatment? Like, or here's a better example. What's our favorite movie? John Wick. Okay, you you devalue the character, the story when you keep making more, and we gave you a send-off, Wolverine, Hugh Jackman. We gave your character a send-off. He's done. Let's not ruin it. You're kind of doing that by taking this role. And he's like, "No, I want to do this. Like, and if this is my last role, let's go out on a high, funny note."
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And so I read that article some time ago, and I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting." They didn't want him to come back. They didn't want him to take this role, but he was just like, "I'm gonna do it."
So, two things that I've seen recently, that kind of touch on both your comment, Kage, and Neff's comment, which is, okay, I saw like this little clip or whatever, and it was like, okay, there's been, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was like, okay, there's been, 10 different Batmans, 7 different Supermans, 5 different Spider-Mans, and like 1 Wolverine. And again, those aren't the exact numbers. I'm just using those as an example. But it's true when you think about all of the different characters over the last, like, obviously Batman probably is like one of the old one going all the way back to like the early 1920s or something like that. It's either Batman or Superman is one of the oldest TV characters. Is it Superman? Okay.
Superman is older. Batman.
Well, Batman, I think
Batman's
Adam West was like the
60s.
first,
60s.
right? So anyway, but there's been, different actors who have portrayed them. Whereas Wolverine, it's Hugh Jackman is the
20
only.
years or so.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Maybe
always
more,
been.
like my one was probably 23 years.
Right.
Well-
So there really hasn't, apart from, I mean, even in First Class when they rebooted the X-Men, it was still him playing Wolverine. So, in that sense, I did find that joke funny. But the other thing that Neff had mentioned is it's kind of like an alternate dimension of his character because Kage, as you mentioned, they gave him a send-off. But he, in Logan, was no longer really Wolverine. He had lost his powers. He had become like this old man that was like barely hanging on to life, working with the professor and he had lost his mind. So, I mean, it was kind of like a very dark version of him passing the torch on to a new generation of mutants. And even though he, passes away in that movie, he's still able to like give, like you said, his last hurrah of being the hero.
Yeah.
In this, it's like he's not that character. He's a different version of Wolverine, either a younger version or an alternate reality where that story never took place.
Right.
So you don't really have to worry about like the producers saying, "Oh, well, we gave you a beautiful send-off." He's not that guy. This is a completely different Wolverine. Either they
But-
time jump or parallel universe.
I wouldn't even be surprised, guys. It's
Because
not out
when
of the realm of reality that you actually see another Wolverine with Hugh Jackman.
Right, and it would be
Because
funny
you
because
see Doctor Strange in that trailer. So
and what was his name?
you don't see Doctor Strange physically. You see
Yeah.
No,
I
no,
forgot
in
about
the
space
second,
open and they jump through.
well, because
Yeah.
in the second one, when you have the big bad, which is
Cable.
Cable, right? He's the one time jumping or universe jumping or whatever. I think it was time jumping basically, but because that was the whole joke, he jumped around at the end of the second Deadpool movie to like do different things and change things or mess with people even. So the fact that they run into Wolverine, it's like, okay, well, maybe that's what the plot, because we don't really know much about the plot of this story, other than, here's Wolverine, here's Deadpool, and, they end up joining forces together to fight the big bad. But it doesn't explain, like, where he came from. Is he from parallel? Is he from different time? You just see him in his
Whoa.
bright yellow
Yeah.
jumpsuit, which is
Lore
old.
accurate.
Exactly, which is, Logan and even his Wolverine spinoff, he wasn't in that bright yellow jumpsuit. That was
Right.
goes all the way back to like the original X-Men movies that he was in initially. So it's, to me, I'm excited because I'm like, ooh, how are they gonna tie like which version of Wolverine he is at this point
Yeah.
to this movie and this time, because it does, they do kind of explain that this is supposed to have taken place or is taking place several years after the second one, the second Deadpool movie. So there is a time, space, or years of space in between when the second
Events.
movie, events from the second movie happened and when this movie is happening.
Do you have something, Kage?
Well, I was just gonna say, I believe when we're talking about Days of Future Past or whatever.
I
like,
love that movie.
It was
Yeah.
great. The reason why you can get away with having the same actor for all
Because
the
he wasn't
movies,
supposed to age.
Exactly. He's not supposed to age. He survived Hiroshima. He was like, it shows him through the ages, and he changes outfits, but he's still the same guy, and it wasn't until Logan where you see him like
Because he had lost.
Right, he had lost his
the
powers.
aging. Yeah.
He had lost
or
the powers.
power to not age, I should say.
Yeah, so there's that to think about, but like the thing again I'm excited about is just the pairing of the characters, because both of them have healing. Wade Wilson's got ridiculous healing because you can cut off his limbs and he grows them back. I don't think we've ever seen Wolverine.
Wolverine doesn't really grow anything back. I haven't seen.
No, he just heals fast.
He just
He just heals
It's like,
because
yeah.
he again, he survived Hiroshima. He got his back fried,
Right.
and he healed
Yeah,
his
he's-
skin. He gets impaled, and he's fine. He gets shot in the head. He pushes the bullet out.
Yeah.
he goes through, and
gets
if you
sliced
know
up,
anything
his
about the comics,
skin knits
he has
together.
gone through some horrifying stuff. I read something online earlier recently that he got destroyed almost down to a cellular level, and he had to regrow from cells, and it documents how painful the horror it is of his powers of having no skin, for example, and not being able to close your eyes, but you can still feel everything. And that's the thing, is no matter what horrifying things he goes.
How do you feel things with no sensory receptors? That's what
Well,
I wanna know.
but that's just it.
If
It's
you're
not,
down to a molecular level, like how
well,
do you-
yeah, there's obviously you don't feel anything at a
Human
cellular
biology.
level, but when you start developing synapses and
Yeah,
a
I
nervous
mean-
system, you don't have skin, but you're just muscles, and it's like, okay, stuff hurts now.
Yeah.
And it's like he doesn't heal instantly. Like
No,
it's a
it takes some
process,
time.
and
Take
he's
some
still.
time. Give me 2 weeks.
And then meanwhile, Deadpool's like, I'm just gonna wait until this little arm grows.
So
back.
it's funny you say that that's what you're most interested in. I'm actually most interested in the back and forth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well that again, that is.
We're gonna have a couple fights. They've
Well,
already
the fights
they've
are going
already
to be there.
hinted.
but I don't mean
They've
the
already-
fights. I mean the talking, the
Well,
chatter.
right, no, but that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
You
is-
got Wolverine who's super gristled down, F you know
Yeah,
what I mean? You
exactly.
got
Off all
Deadpool
the
who's super
time.
sarcastic, and it's like,
yeah.
You got a pissed off all the time.
what do you say?
guy,
Get away
and-
from me, lady. I'm not interested. Like, you know what I mean?
But that,
Well, he had that with Cable a little bit too.
And
but
that's why I
Cable
like
didn't
Cable's
really
character. I
engage.
like Cable's character, and I wish Cable was in this.
Yeah.
But then again, they might say, you know what? Deadpool and Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
We're focusing on Deadpool and Wolverine. Although, if you guys have seen the trailer, no spoilers, there are a lot of characters that you're going to see from other universes within Marvel. This is going to be a melting pot of
Mm. Yeah.
all of these things. So it's going to be very
multiverse of
interesting.
madness,
Yes, a
kind
lot
of.
of X-Men characters. Probably a lot of...
this is the perfect story for them to
Right.
get away with that.
Probably a lot of
Yeah,
your...
because you don't need the extra.
yeah, a lot of
ones.
your Marvel
And we're gonna
characters
be
that you
breaking
see
a lot of fourth walls here.
for sure, and that's going to be the cool. I think the Easter eggs are going to be insane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Easter eggs galore in this film.
One of the things that's great about Deadpool is he is not afraid to make jokes about the things that are not supposed to tie to his story. So, things like, joking about the X-Men characters and interactions that they've had, or like their
Is this
outfits
with
or.
all the budget they had, this big house and just the two of you?
Yeah, exactly. So there's like, oh, they can afford any more characters. Like that was
Yeah.
that was the main jokes that,
Or when they tell, where's Xavier? McAvoy or
Yeah.
Picard?
right, exactly.
Yeah,
So,
it's
I
like
mean-
it almost steps. Yeah, like you said, that fourth wall breaking. You know what I mean? It's
So,
like
so it'll be great,
crazy.
especially
Yeah.
because now that, since it's under the umbrella of Disney and Disney owns all of the Marvel characters, he might then get to make a joke about Spider-Man because Spider-Man is still Sony. So he might be like, all right, where's all the
When it
rest
comes
of the
to
Avengers?
Deadpool,
And,
like
you
all
just
bets are
never
off.
know.
He's going
You
to
never
say what
know.
he wants to say.
One thing that I did find hilarious is, for those of you who have seen the second Deadpool movie, there's the joke that the Invisible Man is actually Brad Pitt. And so he gets electrocuted,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
see
It's
him
in
for
the
like
second
2
one.
seconds.
Yeah, yeah.
You see him for like 2 seconds, so they give him the credit as that.
Easy
So
check.
I watched If the other day, and there is an imaginary friend, and in the credits it says
Brad Pitt?
Brad Pitt.
No.
Nice.
So
Ryan Reynolds put that in there.
Exactly, because that's Ryan Reynolds, and I figured, I saw that, and I was like, that has got to be a nod to the fact that
that's
Deadpool did the
funny.
same
That's
joke.
hilarious.
I was all like, and I can't remember, I think his name was Keith or something in the movie,
Yeah.
and if, like, they kept calling the character, like, Keith, and then it was like, Keith, played by Brad Pitt, and it's like,
I wonder if
he
they
doesn't
bring that
speak,
up
they don't
again
even
in this
show him,
film.
he's just imaginary.
You gotta, okay.
They could be running it into the floor, but I think that would be kind of funny if he
Right.
does show up because, like we talked about, all this alternate timelines
Yeah.
and stuff, and it's like, oh, he's not so invisible anymore. You can see him now, and
Yeah.
Brad Pitt just shows up. It's like,
Right.
what are you doing here, bud?
And his name is Tyler Durden.
That's hilarious.
Hey, but no, a little off topic, but I
Yes.
think about that kind of makes me think, like, is Hollywood doing Easter eggs now in credits? And I'm not talking after credit scenes. Like,
I
you
think
gotta wonder
I think
how
it's
many.
specific to
No,
the people.
Well, because
Yeah,
okay,
it is specific to the movie.
here's something.
or the writer.
Here's something funny. So in Mortal Kombat 11, when that game was coming out, I don't know why, how, where this got started, but people were tweeting Ed Boon, hey, you need to put Shaggy from Scooby-Doo in the game. And people were getting serious. You look it up on Reddit right now. There's still memes about it. And so Ed Boon, creative director of Mortal Kombat, was like, we're not putting Shaggy in there, blah, blah, blah. Okay, remember that statement. So if you look on HBO Max, there's 3, I want to say, Mortal Kombat rated R animated movies. And on one of them, when you go through the credits, like, it says guest starring Shaggy. And I've watched it a couple of times before I realized that was there. So I'm just like, that was my first time ever seeing a little Easter egg in credits, and this is the second movie doing it. So it kind of makes you wonder
Ed Boon can
how
check
many.
that off his box.
Well, yeah, right. Shaggy for
That's
MK.
hilarious.
MK2. Let's go.
What do you guys think about the budget of this film? There's no budget that
Yeah,
I can
there's no
find.
budget. So
I'm
what-
gonna say 100 million.
So interesting you say that. I will go ahead and
Top.
give you this information. So I looked up Deadpool, the original Deadpool, the budget they said was about 58 million. The second Deadpool, 110 million. So Deadpool 3, I'm gonna say it's over 100. I'm gonna say maybe 150. I don't
Makes sense.
think that they're gonna go any higher than that. The second one only made like maybe 330 million. So
What do you mean?
Domestic box
Oh, I
office.
don't care about that. We care about global.
Okay,
So-
well, actually, maybe that was global, I can't remember.
Global 785.
Okay, so then that was domestic, was 3.
It's between 782 and 785. Me and Buttons talked about this offline. If you actually look at the money that these films make, I think it's the tightest margin of box office that I've seen in any film.
Mm-hmm.
It's in between $3 million.
Right.
No.
So, but with that being said,
That's gonna
is
lead
we
into
are
our
seeing
next
the
topic.
increase. Right, that will lead into our next topic, but we already know that Disney tends to throw a lot of money at these films, and as we mentioned, you know, the original Deadpool was not under Disney's umbrella. Deadpool 2 was. But they had already started production with Deadpool 2 before the takeover or the merger or whatever you want to call it. So again, you have that $110 million budget.
Mm-hmm.
They made their money back. It was a blockbuster. It was, you know, it was a good amount of money that they made on that. And as far as that goes, I feel like it's going to be that around 150. Now, that being said, because they're pulling in other characters and things like that, I think these people are doing it on purpose. I think they want to be in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that they're getting like overinflated, you know, casting budgets for them. I think they're wanting to be a part of it. The original cast that's coming back, which I know for sure that there was one character in particular that I actually liked his character, but they had a falling out. And that was the guy who plays,
yeah.
T.J. Miller.
Yeah.
He plays the guy who worked at the bar. So he was like the bartender or
The
owner.
mercenaries.
Yeah. And they had a falling out with him, and so he's not going to be in the third film, which is kind of sad because I did like T.J. Miller,
Yeah.
his character, and he's done some other voice acting work that I've enjoyed. But he, I guess, became kind of a difficult person to work with.
Yeah, I talked about that in the weekly. There was a broadcast where I talked about who wasn't going to be in the film.
Right,
And there's actually
right.
a lot of people that were in these films that aren't going to be for multiple reasons.
Right. But I think there's going to be a lot of little cameos, and as
Yeah.
Neff mentioned, some Easter eggs that are
for
going to
sure.
be thrown in there as nods to other, you know, parts of the Marvel universe and possibly other parts of the Deadpool movies.
Yeah, you gotta pay all the people. And I should say that lightly, but you gotta pay all the people that are coming in cameos, because it's not just average moviegoers. People in Hollywood love this movie, and they're like, I would love to be in the background or be
course.
kept. Like, I like,
There's
you don't even have
tons
to
of
pay me.
movies,
Like,
yeah.
I'm sure somebody out there in that film has said, "Yo, I just want to be in it. I'll dress up in the costume, whatever, for 30 seconds."
I think one of the ones that we loved the most as far as the unusual cameos were the ones with like Matt Damon and for the Thor movie where he plays.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
Like
yeah.
the scene where he's dying and he's all like, oh, and it was Matt Damon and he actually made a cameo in one of the other ones where he plays like this hillbilly hick, and I think that was Matt Damon as well, and one of the other guys was the guy from God, what was it? Evil Dead or Sean versus The Walking Dead or what? You know what it
I
was?
know what you're talking.
That actor.
I know exactly what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
but anyway, so there's cameos, and like you said, the people want to be in those, even if they're obscure characters that might not
Shaun
even
of the
be
Dead?
Shaun of the Dead. Yeah,
It's
so
a
I
good
think-
look.
Yeah, so it's just like hey, I got to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Even though nobody may have recognized me, but then when they see the credits on there, they're like, oh my gosh, I was in there.
It's not about money. It's just
Right.
being a part of the fun.
What do you think the box office for this is going to be, guys?
I think minimum this movie is gonna need to pull in, in the $700 million range.
What do you think it does, though?
Well,
We know what it needs to do.
Yeah, well, we know
What
it
it
needs to do.
honestly, what it needs. So let's look at it two different ways. If the budget is what you say it is, then it needs 500. If they're looking at what this film has done before, as far as Deadpool goes,
Right.
it needs to do probably 750 to 850. I think I threw out 750 originally. I'm going to revise that, and I think it's going to be 850.
You think 850? I feel like, honestly, out of all the movies that have been predicted to come out this year and then how they've done, I feel like this one is gonna have, personally, it's gonna have to make the numbers, like, for me, because I can't see any other films pulling in this content, this cast, pulling in a budget like that. I feel like it's gonna be around the 800 mark, like, for sure. Like,
It's fair.
I would be shocked if it doesn't do at least 8.
Kage?
Yeah, I'm gonna say 700-ish, if not 800 mil.
Between 7 and 8.
Yeah,
I think we're all in the
because-
same ballpark. I'm looking at what it did in history before and how
Right.
that margin is extremely small margin, and then you add that we understand they are pushing this thing heavily because it's the only Marvel film that Disney's really putting out like that. So we're seeing the marketing everywhere for it. Has a following. So if you
Plus,
add
you got
Hugh
the
Jackman
summer
to
release.
it,
Yeah.
summer release, you add Hugh Jackman to it based off what we already know, I think this is enough to get it to that 800 finally.
People like
850, I think, is gonna be if this movie does 950, I'll probably be surprised. Like 950, I'll be like
Depending on-
it depends how
depending-
good the movie is. If the
Exactly.
movie's good and word of mouth picks up,
Yeah, it
because
could
I already
do
know
a
I'm gonna
billion.
watch this movie twice.
It could.
But if word of mouth picks up, it could do that. Off rip, just as far as bottom line goes, I think this thing is not doing anything less than 820.
Yeah, like.
But 850, I think, is the top if it's decent. If
Can
it's
you
good,
imagine
maybe a little higher.
If this came out on, I don't know, Memorial Day weekend or something like that, like, I'm excited. Like, we talk about budgets here all the time, but I think this might be the first time, aside from Dune, that I'm really excited to see how this does, because you're absolutely right, Neff. That I've seen so much, like, promotion for this. There's been podcasts, there's been panels,
Dude,
there's
lot
been
of promo,
ads.
dude.
I go to a movie and they even have the little, we've all seen it, the little ad where Wolverine's getting pissed off, telling everyone to shut the fuck up because, it's just like, turn off
Right.
it. And he's like, whoa, okay, I'm going to take him for a walk or whatever. And Deadpool
Yeah.
comes out of nowhere. So they're promoting it everywhere.
I saw one the other day where they were wanting him to, like, show
Did you
off
guys
his
see the
body and he, like,
Bachelorette
turns
promo?
it- Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. The one where it's all like, oh, I thought we were doing the Bachelorette. And then they're like, give the people what they want. And yeah, and he's like showing off Hugh Jackman's butt or whatever. And he's like, I thought this was something else. He's like, no, it's all right. And it's like, we're just here to give
They're
the people
going
what they want.
crazy
Yeah.
on the promo.
Well, like
So-
they're really going all out because I said it before, I say it again. This is the first time I've been excited for a Marvel
I
anything
think this is going to
since
be, as
Endgame.
far as, now from what I can remember, I can't remember too much about fall other than Smile I'm excited for. I think probably this. I think the only movie I'm probably more excited for the rest of the year after this film is probably Alien Romulus. I
Right.
think
Yes.
Alien Romulus is probably number one to me, and then Deadpool Wolverine. Like,
Yeah.
because I'm really excited for Alien Romulus, but we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah.
So what do you think though? You think 800? You said
7 to 8.
7, 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's pivot here a little bit.
yeah.
We're going to talk about Inside Out 2, which Disney, is our other push. Just to give you a comparison on box office, so budget for the Inside Out 2 was about 200 million. So we know Disney threw a lot of money into it, but I don't think any of us were really ready for the numbers that it actually did.
Right.
Like even on its
Oh, yeah.
opening weekend, it did crazy numbers. And I believe the box office was sitting at over 500 million last time I checked.
Oh, it's way past that now.
Okay, so and that's what I'm saying. That's just the last time I looked.
1.3 billion.
1.3 billion for
I
Inside
think
Out
that one
2.
took the crown for this year. I think it's a wrap. I don't think anything's going to catch it. I thought Despicable Me 4 could have a good argument to do it. I did actually watch Despicable Me 4, decent movie. It's not going to do
not gonna do better.
1.3 billion, and it looks like there's really no stopping Inside Out. We're getting towards the end of summer, but we still got this last weekend. I don't know if they've calculated the box office for this weekend, but I think by the end of this week we could see it at 1.4.
Oh yeah, so it was 543 domestic and 708 international. So that's where I was getting that 5 number from. But yeah, so it's basically the studios, and I believe it's talking about Pixar, because this is a Pixar. So that's Pixar's highest grossing movie to date. Which, when you talk about all the movies that have come out from Pixar and how well they've done, like, that's Frozen, people. Like, Frozen did a lot of money. Toy Story has done a lot of money. Like, all of these movies that they've come out with, and to say Inside Out 2, which it's a sequel. The first Inside Out I remember watching, and don't get me wrong, it's a cute movie, but is it a billion-dollar movie? I don't think I'm pretty sure the first one did not do $1 billion.
They took it to the next level here.
Right, and I have not personally seen it, so just so you guys know, like, what a rundown of what it actually is you have a little girl, Riley, and in her head are all of her emotions, and they basically are kind of like, it's almost like if you think of like the Enterprise, like where they're up on the deck and they're like viewing out through into space, but they're looking through Riley's eyes. And they're like basically helping her control her emotions. And so each one of the little characters is an embodiment of a different emotion. So there's anger, there's disgust, there's joy, which joy is like one of the main characters of the movie. And there's sadness and, anxiety or fear. And I believe in this movie, it's a continuation of how they had to all gel together in the first movie to like figure out a way to prevent her emotions from shutting down after she has like an emotional traumatic event, which in the first movie was she moved to a new city and had to like make new friends and be in a new environment, and that was her leaving behind all of her old friends, and she used to play hockey and different things like that. So, and they accidentally, almost like get all of her good, happy memories, erased, and they're preventing that from happening so that she can still be a kid and have all of the fun emotions. In this one, she's now like entering teen years, and she has like more anxieties and stressors on her life. And so now they're having to interact with new characters and new emotions to help her navigate life. And that's what the gist of these movies are. So again, they're cute, they're funny. You've got a pretty good cast of actors. I think Amy Poehler is Joy, and Lewis Black is Anger. So just he tones it down though. He's not crazy like he is normally in his stand-up comedy. But they all mesh together really well. There's cute characters, and I can't remember the name of they have like her imaginary friend who's like Mr. Bingle Jangle something. Did they have him?
I don't know too much about the characters. I
Oh,
haven't
okay.
actually ever seen Inside Out.
I was
Oh, you
waiting
didn't.
for you to say
I was gonna
Mr.
say had
Bigglesworth.
it. No. It's like Jangle something. But anyway, that's the gist of the movie. If you guys have small children, it's a great movie for them. It really is a good time. The first one I enjoyed. I will see the second one. I was not interested in seeing it in theaters, but I have Disney Plus, so I will be watching it on Disney Plus when it goes streaming. And this is one of those movies that, despite the fact that we had mentioned before how, how it's impacting the box office, this having Disney release it like within a couple of months of it coming out in theaters, if it was actually hurting their bottom line margin on, people just waiting for it to go to streaming instead of actually going and seeing it in theaters.
Yeah.
I think obviously in this case, it's a summer movie. It gets the kids out of the house and to do something. And I think that's what, was so great about, as far as seeing the numbers in this, is they were like, hey, we're taking the whole family. We're going to go watch this movie. It's Disney, so we know it's going to be safe for the kids. But Disney always has that adult humor in there. And like I said, you've got a lot
You
of
got
these,
something for the kids and the adults.
for the kids and the adults. The humor is there for both.
Yeah, the first one did 858 million.
Yeah, so it still had a very
So this makes
good-
sense.
Yeah, it makes sense that it
To go over 500, possibly 600 million over what the first one did, very good. Almost
And
at a
just to
7X.
release it when all the kids are out of
blockbuster,
school during the
smash.
summer, like the perfect time.
Great time to do it. Great time to do it. Very good for Pixar for sure. I've heard nothing but good things about Inside Out too, so this isn't surprising to me. Other than it being a billion, like 3, probably 4, that's a little shocking, but not surprising that an animated film that's a sequel is doing well, because typically those do well, especially if it does appeal to the family and the kids more importantly. And like Kage just said, summer release, perfect release for this film. They knocked it out the park with that one. Like I said, I spoke on Despicable Me for a little bit. Not going to go too deep in detail. It's really more of a continuation of Gru's story and things like that, and the Minions, of course. Gru has a family now, so that's kind of an interesting dynamic with the film. But decent film. I actually like Rise of Gru a little more, Minions too, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
But Despicable Me 4 was cool. I don't know if it's going to compete with Inside Out 2 on a level as far as box office. Let's see if one of my co-hosts can find the box office for Despicable Me 4 right now. But I think it's going to do decent. Despicable Me has a good following. Minions have a great following. There's a lot of marketing surrounding that group of characters. And also, they have longevity here in the animated game. So does anybody have the box office?
yeah. So I've got. Go ahead.
I need the global.
Yeah, no, this is global. But I don't. Mine's 3 days old. How old is yours? Is
I
that-
just did a quick Wikipedia.
I got 255 global.
Right now,
Okay, so yours must be more.
437.8 million.
Yeah, yours must be more.
What's the
Now,
budget?
100 million.
So we already have another success with Despicable Me 4. So guys, the animated films are killing it this summer. Once again, Despicable Me 4 picking the summer to drop, just like Inside Out 2. It is working very well for these animated films. Despicable Me 4 is a success.
And
you know,
I will say,
they're killing it.
interestingly enough, they also are saying that, it's pushing it closer and closer to, so we, as Neff mentioned, you've got the first 3 movies. This is the 4th as far as being actually Despicable Me, but there are the 2 Minion movies. And so cumulatively of those movies, they're reaching almost 5 billion worldwide for those movies altogether.
Wow.
So that is a a big chunk of change for some cartoons, and that does speak to the fact that these movies are worldwide successes. Everybody likes
Yeah.
the characters, everybody's enjoying. I mean, the Minions, I remember when I watched the first movie, sitting there going like, yeah, these are what make the movie. The Minions are, what you enjoy in the movie. So the fact that their sequels and their spin-offs have done so well just goes back to to the fact that that content can continue forward. They could do more things with the Minions, or they could continue this franchise. However, other than the fact that, he does have a family and they introduce a new baby into the story, I feel like Gru's story overall has kind of come to a conclusion, because at the beginning it was he's alone, he does not have a family other than the Minions, and so his life is kind of aimlessly going about very selfishly, and then he's introduced to these orphan kids, and now he has someone else to worry about and look after, and he becomes a parent. So, that selfishness kind of goes away, and he starts to, have like a deepness to him that he didn't have before.
Sure.
So I think now that he's been married and he's had a child of his own with his new wife, I feel like they need to wrap this up and just let it end on a high note. That's me personally.
Not Fast and the Furious.
Yes,
treatment.
exactly. I feel like it's come full circle to where you're like, okay, we've seen, his success, and he's in a good, happy place.
But from a financial perspective, it made over $1 billion. Do you really think they're going to let that go?
They'll spin it. Probably have his son be 5 years old and then be friends with Minions, and they'll have another Minions off that.
I mean,
Right.
well, it made too much money for them to let it go.
course.
Because here's the thing. An adult will go, okay, I've had enough. A child, another
There's
Despicable
never
Me.
enough.
It's never enough.
No.
Yeah. Well, but I mean,
Makes sense.
And the franchise has been around so long now, between the Despicable Me and the spin-off movies and all that, we're now seeing those kids growing up, and soon we're going to get to a part where they've grown up and now they're showing their kids Despicable Me. It's kind of like, and you're tapping into a nostalgia aspect. I think you can, if the franchise is around long enough, you can absolutely get into that. I don't think it's going to be like every generation has a Batman. We have to have Ghostbusters. We have to keep that relevant. Oh, we have Beetlejuice coming out. That is nostalgic for older folks such as myself, and so there's, I know, but like I'm wondering if this is gonna transcend into that
That's
arena.
a good.
Like, is Despicable Me is it gonna? It's been around for so long.
The only thing that I can say with this is, like, the two other animated franchises that had long-running, movies, and they kind of, to me, they kind of petered off towards the end of it, to where you're like, all right, I'm ready to be done, because again, there's several years in between each one of these. So if you're saying, okay, you're gonna have new audience members, sure, but then the original audience members are gonna be like, yeah, I've already seen like 7 of those movies. I don't want to go watch another one.
Right.
So
if they have kids, you're gonna want to show them. Hey,
right.
this is what
So, again, the two franchises that I'm thinking of that ran long like this were, what was the one with the Ice Age movies? The Ice Age movies. So they did like
Okay.
4 of those. And at the end, they had Jennifer Lopez in there. Okay. So, they had, these cast members come in, and as they introduce new characters that are, part of these movies because they wanted to be associated with them. But, towards the end there, you're like, okay, how many times can you watch the same movie over again? Because while they introduced new things, new characters, they even had Manny the Mammoth have a family again, like when he thought he would never have a family ever again, because he thought he was the last woolly mammoth. So, they found ways to continue the story forward, but really how many
How
more ways?
far?
And then the other one would be the Madagascar movies. So
Not
they had.
Toy Story?
I was gonna say what Kage said.
Yeah, well, Toy Story was one, but it had a huge gap in between. But I'm talking about as far
Not
as
stopping them from making another one.
no, but what I'm saying is these movies were consistently,
In a
just,
range.
yeah, in a
I see what
range
you're
of
saying.
time versus Toy Story, like you said, you have the nostalgia because you had the first one come out, and then the one that just recently came out. I mean, you're talking about a span of what, 30 years or something?
but like something is keeping that train going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You said it yourself. We haven't had a Toy Story in a very long time, and yet they are making another one, and I think,
Right.
I think 4 was a good send off, personally.
Yeah.
yeah, but like Andy's grown up now,
Yeah.
and like time has to progress. There's digital toys now. There's smartphones. That's got to play into the whole toy aspect, because the toys they have now versus back in my day, we had
I need
Crossfire.
to play lots of Minecraft. Those are my toys now.
Minecraft and Roblox. No,
Roblox.
no.
Yeah,
back in my day, I was out in the living room with a million Legos
Doing
on the
stuff,
floor.
yeah.
Heck
Yeah.
I was doing
But
stuff.
Legos were still toys.
Putting in work.
In the
Yeah.
real world, you were playing with blocks versus trying to put blocks on a computer.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, so, but ultimately, I think is going to pretty much cover this
Oh,
episode.
for sure.
We've gone through, you know, expectations for Deadpool and Wolverine. We're all excited about it. And then we've talked a little bit about Inside Out and Despicable Me and how well they did in the box office. You know, this summer has really so far been all about the kids' movies as far as the success. And even for this year, which is kind of, you know, in some ways, based off of what the movies we had come out, we would have liked to have seen some perform better. But ultimately, you know, our first $1 billion movie was a kids' movie.
Right
Yeah.
in the middle of summer, yep.
You
Yeah,
know,
because for 2024, for a while there, it was Dune Part 2, and Denis
Was,
Villeneuve
right.
went on record to say he hates that his movie is the
highest.
top.
Yeah.
Like, I guess he
Well, it's
he
not
wants
the highest
Hollywood. He
anymore.
wants Hollywood to do better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I
And
don't
then
know if he was
out-
expecting Inside Out to
I
be
don't
the
think
one that did
anybody
better.
was expecting Inside Out 2 to do.
I knew
this
it was
well.
gonna do. I knew it
Numbers,
was gonna
yeah.
do numbers. I knew Dune wasn't gonna be number one. I knew
Right.
it did well, but there's like probably 3 or 4 movies that could knock it off. But this happened to be one of them,
Right.
and it's only one so far, so it might still remain in that top. I think
Yeah.
it'd probably end up being in the top 4 for sure.
Yeah, I actually thought Despicable Me was going to do a little bit better, but, you know, the
I
fact.
thought Despicable Me 4 would do a little bit better. It's not bad, still 3-4X,
Right,
not finished yet, but I
Right.
thought I was thinking 700, 800.
right, exactly. But,
But based off what I saw in the movie, though, it doesn't look like an
Right.
$800 million success to me. Like, the movie was okay.
yeah,
It was all right. Like, you know what I mean? But I think as far as this summer goes, it's Inside Out's summer.
yeah. And that's going to do it for us today on the Popcorn Square. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know if you've seen any of the movies that we've talked about and how you felt about their performance, if you enjoyed them. And as always, ring the bell for.
Ring the bell for notifications.
notifications.
Share with a friend, guys. Word of
Yeah.
mouth helps out. Share with a friend, please.
Yeah, and go ahead. I'm signing off. Buttons with.
Kage?
And Neff,
All right. Be safe.
be safe.